The Entrepreneurial Journey Podcast. We're talking business and building a culture that's kick-ass. Where we make it happen, grab your seat, let's have a blast. At the Entrepreneurial Journey Podcast.
Hello, Lindsay.
Hi, Rebecca.
How are you?
Very well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really well, thank you. Is Pamela joining us today?
She is indeed, yes.
Good. Well, let me introduce you first. This is Lindsay McKenzie. She's one of the co-founders of PS Wellness Edinburgh, a wonderful concept in wellness, health, well-being, mental well-being, and a destination place that is at the moment a mere architect's design on a piece of paper and is in the heads of you and Pamela. But I want to talk to you about the journey so far. Is Pamela with us yet?
Not yet, no.
Okay, well, Lindsay, can you help us understand how you and together in the first place?
Pamela was and still is a client of mine. So I'm a sports and remedial massage therapist. And Pamela came to me as a new runner for treatment. And she came to me for a good couple of years, very sporadically to start with. And then we kind of developed a joint interest in running. And then we just simply became friends.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. And when did you start talking about this concept of a destination for wellness?
Well, it was something that Pamela and I we'd mooted it over the years, and we'd kind of jokingly said, yeah, we should do something. But we were never entirely sure what it is that we could do, because although we both work in the wellness industry, our skills are quite different. So we weren't entirely sure how we could collaborate. And it was one day where Pam actually sent me a text message from a tube in London. And she said, I'm over this in a million ways. We should start a business. So it was a case of just sitting down and talking about what it was that we wanted, what we felt was missing, what frustrated us, and PS Lifestyle Wellness was born.
Oh, wow, wonderful. So the idea came whilst Pam was sitting on a tube in London. Right, okay.
Lots of thought went into it. Lots of thought has since gone into it.
Yeah. When you got that initial text message, what was your gut reaction?
Well, Pam's a very ideas person, incredibly creative, and it came through, and it was like, okay, could you be a bit more specific? And I think that's that threw me slightly, because it was kind of, well, what are we going to do? We know what we want, but how do we interpret that? How do we develop it? Where do we even start? And it was through just conversation, and it was the realization that although we were both working in the wellness industry, we weren't actually seeing or experiencing what we wanted to in terms of wellness. You know, what was available to us, it was fairly generic and a bit disjointed and incredibly impersonal. You know, it's a one size fits all kind of attitude. And what we wanted was, well, what I wanted specifically, I wanted science and research and credibility. Pam was very much into luxury, high end, but communication and care and just being treated as an individual with needs and goals that were very different, you know, from the next person that you would normally meet in a wellness facility. And that's when PS was born.
You're right, because you know, my experience, I don't know about our listeners, but my experience of, you know, the spa industry, for example, even in top end spas, you still feel like you're on a production line.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we're still waiting for Pam. I'm not sure what's happened to her, but we'll crack on anyway.
Yeah.
And I think she's having trouble with the link, so I'm just going to send the link to her again and see what happens. So we may just end up with just you today, Lindsay.
That would be
nice. So that was the spark that ignited the business idea, which was great. I know the journey. You're about 2 years in, are you? Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah. Yep. And what's happened so far? Because this is a really huge idea. It might be an idea to tell the listeners what kind of funding and investment you're looking for, and describe the project.
Well, so the project is it's an exquisite destination for your wellness, allowing you to experience ultimate happiness and contentment. Now, that's a pretty bold statement, but I think the very fact that it's a bold idea, it needs to have a statement that sparks real interest. So we're a private members wellness club, and we're set to change the way you think about your wellness. We've been told that it's a visionary and revolutionary project.
Yeah.
And we know that's going to make massive changes to people's lives and the lives of those around them. So we're focusing on 5 key elements of wellness which interlink with one another.
Okay.
And we want to ensure that each member is treated as an individual. So going back to the first question, that was always a frustration of ours. Like you said, it's a bit of a conveyor belt. So we feel that PS, our way of wellness it's about revolutionising how you view it. It's about communication and consultation. It's about managing and sustaining your wellness, again, with that research-driven advice, your scientific-led offerings and treatments, and credible fad-free information. And that's really important to us, because in this day and age of social media and Instagram influencers, there's always somebody online trying to tell you and trying to sell you a certain way of wellness.
Yeah.
And it's not always credible. You can't always trust or believe in what they're trying to tell you. So that's something that we want to clearly steer away from. The crucial component of PS is the allocation of your very own wellness navigator.
Okay.
And that person will advise and listen to you and your wellness needs and goals as they develop and change on your wellness journey.
Brilliant. The 5 elements of wellness is something that we'll look into a little bit more. But I want to welcome Pamela Griffin, who's managed to join us. Welcome, Pamela.
Hello. Sorry about that.
It's okay. Technology is all about technical hitches, isn't it? Lindsay was telling us about the spark of the idea and how she received a text from you one day whilst you were sat on the tube, and she thought, well, why not? But Pam, what was it whilst you were sitting in that tube train that made you think of this as an idea?
It was having yet another meeting with a therapist in a spa who had decided that they had enough and were going to set up by themselves. Lindsay and I had talked about it very jokingly in the previous kind of 12 months to that. And I think both of us had the idea that we wanted to do something, but it actually made us feel a little bit sick.
Right. Okay.
Because we were so used to, well, I mean, obviously Lindsay had already set up her business, but it was doing really well. And I was from a background where there was a steady income coming in and all that kind of stuff. So the idea of that not being the case was really quite scary. So we kind of laughed about it a little bit at first. And then it was just that day, I just thought, right, that's it. I'm going to text Lindsay and we're going to say, right, I'm over this. Let's do it. If we're not going to do it now, we're never going to do it. And luckily she said, okay. And here we are.
I think that was exactly what I said.
Yeah, okay. I think it actually was. I think it was a one-word reply.
So there's that leap of faith, isn't it, that we actually talk about in the entrepreneurial journey on the platform. Or that course is coming in September. But that's you're right. There's that sick feeling is that if we don't do it now, we're never going to do it.
That's right.
Yeah. So there might be people listening to this thinking they've got the idea, but I don't want to let go of the salary. I've got share options. I've got a pension. I've got a mortgage to pay. Now, clearly, both of you have all of those things. What was how did you let go of that security blanket? What was the push?
Lindsay, do you want to go?
Well,
because you did.
I did it a few years ago as a sports massage therapist, and Pam will tell you it's not easy. It's incredible. It's actually terrifying. And there was many a time that Pam came round to my house with her book of ideas to try and just bring me down a little bit, because I wanted to do it. There was no denying that I wanted to do it, and I needed to do it. But I had, like you said, I had visions of it not working and not being able to pay my mortgage and not being able to pay my bills and living in a skip. You know?
But you genuinely did, like it was.
It was. There were moments of extreme kind of hysteria, but that the desire and the drive to want to do it far outweighs it, and it's really interesting that yes, you have to be incredibly frugal. You have to be aware of the things that you maybe perhaps take for granted now that you enjoy doing, and you just have to do things slightly differently. You know, and if you have this driving ambition that you need to make this change in your life, then you get on and you do it. And I know that sounds really simplistic, but when it comes down to it, you're right. If you're not going to do it then you're never going to do it, and you will regret it. There's no question, you will regret it.
Yeah.
Sometimes as well, it's looking at what the alternative is, and I just was fed up with where I was, and had kind of plateaued in my own career a little bit, and thought, well, where am I going to go next? So I think sometimes if you look at where you are, and you don't have to be desperately unhappy to set up your own company. I mean, you know, very often people are very happy, and that makes it even harder. But personally, I just was a bit fed up with where I was, and I thought, well, I'm always going to work. You'll always get a job. I can't even tell you the jobs I've done. If my permanent, like, they're all legal, obviously, but like, you know, and actually, as Lindsay said about being frugal, it's quite a humbling experience. You go back to you have to be so mindful of every choice that you make, and that's a really good lesson to learn for running a business as well, because you start out with nothing basically, and you have to try and make something from it, and that running in tandem with your own life is a really good lesson to learn. So I think and certainly, again, speaking from my own experience, work in general, a career in general for me has never been about the money. If it had been, I would still be working for the big multinational that I was 10 years ago. But for me, it's always been about enjoying what I do, being the best at what I do, and what comes along with that in terms of remuneration, that's great. But I personally want to feel happy and content more than have loads and loads of money in the bank.
Yeah.
And I genuinely mean that. I know a lot of people laugh and go, yeah, whatever, but that's a genuine, honest answer for me about the other reason for wanting to do it. You've got to be happy. You may as well make yourself happy, because other folk aren't going to do it for you.
No, it's true. So what have the pair of you sacrificed, do you think?
Definitely having that stable income, and knowing definitely that you're going to get paid at the end of every month, a company car, foreign travel, all of those things, but
a stacked wine cellar.
I mean, I do. And also, actually, the biggest thing for me, as well, when I finally handed my notice in, I remember waking up on that Monday, because I finished on a Friday. And obviously you prepare for this. You don't just like hand in your notice and, well, some people might, but I couldn't. You have to save, you have to have some kind of plan about what you're going to do. And I woke up on the Monday and just felt sick for about 3 months.
You don't know what to do. You wake up on the Monday morning and you think, what do I do? Yeah. Because you're so used to, you know, being in a routine. And you think to yourself, I could just pad around my house in my pajamas all day.
That's actually what I'm doing right now. Anyway, but yeah, you do feel sick. And I think I also felt a little bit like I was possibly sacrificing my reputation, because the minute, for me anyway, when I went kind of when I started telling people officially about what I was doing, it was out there. So you've told people you can't take that back. You've left a full-time permanent job and you're working in a bar. You know, it's kind of like, well, what on earth is she doing? So you know, for me, it was maybe about what other people might think of me, but you do get over that. But it's a feeling that is always kind of there in the background for me a little bit.
Okay. And what have you both gained from taking that leap of faith?
I think certainly recently it's that realization of the positivity that people have for the project. You know, you obviously start out thinking, yeah, this is amazing, it's going to be brilliant, and then you get part of the way through and you think, okay. But when you have people tell you that you're visionary, that you're brave, that this is just what the industry needs, you know that you're on the right path. You know that the sacrifices that you've made and the possibility of people thinking certain things about you, it's all worth it.
And Pam, what do you think you've gained?
I've definitely learned more about business and myself in the last 18 months than I ever have. It's given me the opportunity to network out with my own industry, you know, kind of go back to school a little bit, doing lots of courses that I just wouldn't have had the chance to do if I was still in my previous job. Meet some amazing people and actually see beyond the garden fence a little bit and realize that there's a whole world out there. I wish somebody had told me 10, 15 years ago that you don't need to work full time. You need to work for a big, you know, massive company to be happy. I enjoy the fact that I am now the master of my own diary, and maybe there's a little power trip going on, I don't know, but I like the idea that we get to make the decisions. And that what we decide will actually have an impact. That I get a real kick out of that.
Good. And how, so that's really interesting. So we've talked about hanging around the house in your pajamas, which, you know, potentially you could do, but seriously, I know you've achieved a lot in a very short space of time. What does drive you to get out of bed in the morning? Let's start with you, Lindsay.
Well, besides a good caffeine hit, for me, it's the opportunity to add value and positive change to someone's life in a tangible way. So as a massage therapist, I use my skills to better people's physical and mental health. So seeing my experience and clinical knowledge help others move better, feel better, understand their mobility and their body's capabilities better is a huge motivator. It's a great feeling when it clicks into place and clients get it. And the opportunity of doing that on a far larger scale, that's hugely exciting for me.
Yeah.
Because at the moment, it's just me. At the moment, it's just me.
You've got to extend your service beyond yourself, haven't you, to make a real difference? Yeah, you
Absolutely.
do. Yeah. Pam, how about you?
I think it does probably go back to what I said before about it's out there, people know about it. So if I don't get out of my bed and do something about it, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And I am going to look like a bit of an arse. So I've always been reasonably good at motivating myself, I must admit. That for me, it's just the fact it's out there. People ask you, people that you haven't seen for maybe a few months will ask you, first thing they'll say is, oh, where are you up to? How's it going? and I hate not having anything to say back.
Right.
So I know that we have to get up and get on with it. Otherwise, it's not going to happen, basically, and we can't have that.
That's really interesting, is that you've made yourselves accountable quite publicly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's scary. And actually, Lindsay will tell you there's two sides of the coin for that for me. One of them is that, people are like, wow, that's amazing. And then they ask you, well, when's it going to happen? And then the other thing is, I was really scared. I went through this whole period of, I was convinced somebody was going to steal our idea because we put it out there. And
don't steal our idea.
Yeah, please don't. Nobody steal our idea. Because what we are doing, it's not a app. It's not a product that you can, pick up on or put on a shelf or download off the internet. It's a very different proposition to a lot of new starts in terms of business of people that you speak to. So a lot of what we have, our IP, are our ideas, our images, our plans. And, I was just really scared that somebody was going to steal the idea. So once I got over that, I realized that actually it was a good thing that we put it out there as early as we did, because by doing that, we have opened more doors and had more conversations with people had we kept it to ourselves. I always say to Lindsay, and I think you agree, Lindsay, I'm convinced, we're just one conversation away meeting that person who completely agrees and sees with what we're trying to do and becomes our main investor, and off we go. But so I was going to say, it is difficult to let go of that to begin with, because you're scared. It's a bit like having a baby, I suppose. You don't want to, just chuck it out there.
It's your baby and you're protective of it.
Exactly.
And are you happy to share with the audience what you're looking for, what the ask is of an investor, or do you want to keep that close to your chest?
No, I think I don't have a problem with that. Do you, Lindsay?
Say it.
Well,
why not?
I say £20 million, but I've rounded it up from 17 because 20 is easier, and it's
contingency.
Contingency. Joking aside, we've done the whole cost analysis. The full financial figures and projections are all there. So we're looking for approximately £14 million to build the building, and the rest of that, so about 3.5 is the FF&E, so the fixtures, fittings, and everything else that goes in there.
Okay.
And including the business that goes within it. And actually, when you look at the wellness industry as a whole, that isn't an awful lot of money for this type of project. I think it was you that said to us quite early on, Rebecca, it's just a number.
It is.
I have taken that, and I think you have as well, Lindsay. And whenever anybody, because they do, take a huge, sharp intake of breath, you just say, well, it's just a number. It is what it is. And it's not a completely ridiculous number for what we are going to achieve. Yeah. So, and we're also very open as well to how that investment comes in. Lindsay and I are very, as you can probably tell, quite normal, down-to-earth people, and we want to work with very similar people to us that share that vision. And so that investment, at the moment, we're open to all different kinds of ways that might come to us. But yeah, that's what we're.
Okay, good, great. And that's quite it's a chunky number, and I think some business owners starting out would think, oh, you're never going to get there, but actually it's amazing what you can achieve when you put your mind to it, and you've come a long way in a short space of time to get the plans together, as you say, to get the full costing, to get the full business plan, and anybody investing will know how they're going to get a return on that investment and the time scale as well. So it's all been planned out, which is great. Okay, so who inspires you, Pam? Who inspires you today?
I find that a really difficult question to answer, because I've tried really hard to think about this, and I can't come up with a person.
Okay.
It's more of a thing.
Right.
I am inspired by people who just make things happen and don't necessarily think the world owes them anything. And if they want to work hard and go and achieve what they want, they've got to do it themselves. And people who don't give up as well. There isn't one person in particular that that comes on the telly or I see on a magazine and think, oh yeah, they're like amazing. It's certain elements of people's character. I follow quite a lot of people on Instagram. You're going to laugh at this probably, but I'm really into my music, and I follow quite a lot of DJs and music producers, and that's probably one of the hardest industries because it's a creative industry to actually make your way in. And just kind of watching their journey, it's literally the Dyson moment, knocking on people's doors with your CD. 99 people say no, but one person says yes. And I really admire people who just don't give up, basically. And there isn't one person in particular that I can say that's of, but just that personality trait. And also, I've always been very inspired by people who run a business but do it in a nice way. And by that I mean, oh, you still there? Yes.
Lindsay, sorry, had you finished, Pam?
It's okay. No, I went a wee bit haywire there. Yeah, people who run a business and do it in a nice way. So don't, have a stick to beat their staff with, because what's the point in that? So I've always been attracted to that kind of personality, basically.
Okay, good. Lindsay, how about you?
For me, it's the modern day massage and physical therapists that inspire me. I find that even in this modern day, massage it's still seen as a treat, a complementary therapy. It's even a placebo, even. So seeing so many professionals in my field of expertise and beyond, far more advanced than I am, branching out into kind of pain science, creating tools that have measurable change in pain and performance. It's a massive step forward for bodywork therapies. So there's an organisation that I follow, Integrated Kinetic Neurology, was just trips off the tongue. But they're not too dissimilar to PS, because they understand that there's no singular approach to healing the human body, and they use cutting edge techniques of neuroscience and movement. So it's about getting the message out there that massage therapy it's multisensory. It's a complex conversation with the nervous system, and it's not just rubbing, really.
No, it's not.
I'm really excited to see what is effectively an ancient therapy develop further and find its rightful place in kind of modern medical journals.
Oh, it's good. It's good that we are embracing. I don't think we can call them alternative therapies anymore.
No, I don't think we should. No, absolutely.
Yeah. They should be fully integrated into, as you say, the approach we make to physical as well as mental well-being.
That's right.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Okay, the pair of you, what keeps you awake at night?
At the moment, it's probably those odd little doubts that creep in. Will we ever find an investor? That's what flips into my head at about midnight.
Okay.
And on a personal note, just keeping head above water because I'm working part-time.
Yeah.
And that's the honest truth. When you're doing kind of contract work, you're constantly having to juggle that side of things and make sure that's okay, but also really stay focused on the business. So you kind of have a bit of a split personality. Well, I do anyway. That's just the situation that I'm in. Okay. So that's probably those two things are the biggest things for me, definitely.
Okay, Lindsay, how about you?
Yeah, I would agree that the investment part, but for me, it's the pitch and presentation. I'm very audio digital. I need to be thoroughly and utterly prepared, and have every document, every piece of paper, every PowerPoint slide organized and down to the nth degree, as opposed to being, Pam's far more creative and kind of
fly by the seat of your pants,
fluid when you talk. So yes, that element of the business of PS that keeps me awake at night. From a personal or a massage therapist point of view, it's about the health of my clients and the processes that I need to come up with to help them out of pain. So I specialize in chronic pain, and that can be difficult but not impossible to treat and eradicate. But I need to know that I'm having the right kind of conversation with my clients, and not scaremongering them with words like, you know, chronic and degeneration and damage and things like that. And it's about explaining to them about their capabilities and the strength and ability of their own bodies. That's what I ruminate over in my head at night. Trying to just saying the right things in order to help my client.
Yeah, absolutely. Language is so important, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And how do the pair of you relax and switch off?
I like a good book. I like to come home and shut the door and just put my head in a bit of a crime thriller. You know, something like a Quentin Jardine that's, you know, got a Scottish thriller with a completely unbelievable but kind of believable hero at the end. But a lot of singing as well.
Oh yeah, you're into amateur dramatics, aren't you?
I am, yes.
Cool.
So a lot of singing, whether at home, on stage, or after a few Prosecco's.
I can highly recommend Ambrose Parry. Have you read any of his?
No.
Scottish crime drama set in the I think it's the Victorian era. Okay. Very good. Just reading one of his. We digress. Pam, how do you switch off and relax?
I like a bit of an R&R, which is running and raving. So, and I'm trying to do it at the same time. I will find a place where you can run and rave. I run a lot. It's my downtime. I'm quite an active person. I've got quite a lot of energy, so I find it quite difficult to sit still. I've been like that my whole life. So actually, when I'm tired and if I go out and run 4 or 5 miles, I actually feel a lot calmer afterwards.
Oh, okay.
And then I love music. Music is a huge part of my life, and it's basically my social life. So even though I'm in my 40s, I could rave with the best of the 20-year-olds and probably stay up longer than them. So any excuse to go out and have a party, basically.
Brilliant. You know, I can see that becoming part of your 5 strands of wellness.
Yeah,
well, dancing is so important.
I know, it really is. And I think as well, like it's when you follow the kind of DJs that I do, you tend to find you're with the sort of similar crowd of people in terms of age. So it's a real camaraderie. Like music brings people together. It doesn't matter what kind of genre of music you listen to. Music can remind you of things. It can make you happy. It can make you sad. As Lindsay will know because she sings and stuff. But it's a huge part. I already know. I have in my head, because we're going to have like a whole week of opening nights for PS. And I already have in my head exactly how I want one of those nights to go and the DJ that I want to come and the party and the music he's going to play and all this kind of stuff.
Brilliant.
So Gareth Emery, if you're listening.
If you're listening, Gareth, I stopped.
Clear your diary.
I have met you. You won't remember, but I do. So you'll be getting a phone call at some point. Brilliant.
What frustrates you most about the business?
We had this discussion earlier, didn't we, Lindsay? I think if for me, when I'm looking at it right here, right now, the frustration for me is that we have a wonderful ecosystem in Edinburgh and Scotland for entrepreneurs. However, there's a big gap between people who are starting a business of a certain size. So, quite small, maybe it's going to be just them for, a good few years, through to, the people like us that are looking for a lot of money. And there doesn't seem to be an awful lot of support for the entrepreneurs like us who are, starting big, if you like. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, because we have been hugely fortunate to work with some great people, but you do find that very often when you start to talk about the level of investment that you're looking for, that people will literally take a step back and don't really know what to do with you. And that's frustrating, because some people might be put off by that and think, oh well, it's never going to happen for me then. But luckily we've got great supportive people, Rebecca, like yourself, who are constantly telling us it will happen. It's, don't be put off by that. So that's my frustration. And longer term, once the business is up and running, I think Lindsay's the same, would really like to try and plug that gap in some way.
Yeah.
And find a way to help people who are scaling up very quickly or starting, you know, at a higher point.
High level.
Yeah.
It kind of feels a little bit like you're on your own a little bit more. And, you know, we have had a few people say to us, well, maybe you are aiming too high. Why don't you just maybe get a wee spa or a wee salon, a couple of rooms? And do you know what? Yeah, we could do that.
Mm-hmm.
We absolutely could, and we would make it work, but that's not the point. And that frustrates me, that we have to kind of constantly, you know, sort of say, nope, that's not the vision, that's not the dream. So yeah, I guess for me that's probably the biggest thing.
Okay. What about you, Lindsay? Would you agree with that?
I would absolutely.
Yeah.
I would add to that I need to remember that our projects is not at the top of everyone else's priority list.
True.
You know? So we think about this every day, and whilst we know and people around us know that it's vision and it's exciting and it will change people's lives, it's frustrating not everybody else sees that, or at least they see it, but not everybody's banging our drum at the moment simply because they have other priorities. So I know that will come.
Yeah.
But at the moment, it's quite frustrating. Yeah.
So in essence, you know, if there's anybody out there who has £20 million and they are interested in developing a world-class centre of wellness, which is, you know, a high-end facility, purpose-built, and I've seen the images, it is unique. There is nothing else quite like it. And the concepts are absolutely stunning. So if there's anybody listening out there who've got contacts in the investment world, then how do they get in touch with you? Where do they start?
Well, we have, sorry, Lindsay, we have a website which got all of our contact details on it. We also are, we have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We use our Facebook really to reach out as well to potential members.
Good.
We forget, I think, that Lindsay and I have got a lot of experience. It takes people to remind us that we kind of do know what we're talking about. So we use that as a platform to disseminate the information that we think is useful.
Okay.
A big part of PS is that we are cutting through the kind of fog and the rhetoric that's out there to try and make it easy and accessible and simple for people to understand. Yeah. So you can find us on all those platforms.
Good. And what's your web address?
So it's all the W's, pswellnessedinburgh.com.
Brilliant.
There.
Great. Okay. Well, I'm excited to see what's coming next. I as I say, I've seen the plans. I know what's coming next, and I know you're ready to start work on that, to purchase the land. I know that you've got all the right plans in place, and that you simply need some inspired investors who get what you're doing to start backing you. Great. Wonderful. Okay, well, I wish you all the luck in the world, because I tell you what, as soon as it's open, I'm going to be first member. Because you deliver everything I'm looking for. I will then only need to go to one place for all my beauty, yoga, exercise, massage, nutrition stuff, which will be amazing. And I know you're building a community around that as well, of like-minded people. So it's going to be incredible. So thank you, Pam and Lindsay from PS Wellness. I really appreciate your time, and best of luck.
Thank you very much.
All right. Have a great evening. Thanks, guys. Bye.
The Entrepreneurial Journey Podcast. We're talking business and building a culture that's